So we're going to take it to Comrade Elikya Ngoma, who is the Haiti expert of the African People's Socialist Party, as well as the Haiti editor for the Burning Spear newspaper. And she'll be providing a summation of the contradictions at the Del Rio, Texas border. So Uhuru, Comrade Elikya, welcome to today's program.
Uhuru, thank you, Director Akile, for that introduction. As was stated, my name is Elikya Ngoma, and I am a member of the African People's Socialist Party. I am the administrative assistant for Chairman Omali Ishitela, who leads the work of the African People's Socialist Party, and he has also assigned me to be the Haiti expert of the party and also the Haiti editor of the Burning Spear newspaper. I myself am an African from Haiti. My family is from Haiti, and we, I just wanted to provide some background as to what is taking place. And there are over 14,000 immigrants at the border, the Del Rio, Texas border, where more than half of them are Africans from Haiti. And so about over 7,000 Africans from Haiti or Haitians are facing deportation at the Texas border, where United States President Joe Biden has been sending back about six to eight flights a day of Africans going back to Haiti. And I want to say that, we have seen videos and pictures of the kind of treatment that has been, or mistreatment or an abuse of the Africans at the border. Border patrols being on horses, whipping at the Haitians. But I want to say that I have seen videos of people from Haiti or who has been deported, reporting to Haitian news and journalists that while they are on the planes, their hands and their feet actually had been chains, and they actually just remove the ropes and the chains just before they get off of the flight so that the journalists, would not see it. But this is what is taking place aboard on the planes that are being sent back anyways. So according to the New York Times, the rise in Haitian migration began in the months after President Biden took office and quickly began reversing President Trump's immigration policies, which many people understood as a sign that the US would probably be more welcoming to migrants. And so in May, the administration extended temporary protected status for the 150,000 Haitians already living in the country. And I want to add that after the January 12, 2010 earthquake that took place in Haiti, so many Africans from Haiti were brought into this country. Some who already had family before, through this process called the temporary protected status. And over the years, the amount of time they could stay had been extended, but also many Africans who were leaving Haiti, and I will get to that shortly as to why, we do have this high level of migration, have been going to countries in so-called South or Latin America. So you do have an increase of Haitian people and Haitian communities in places like Chile, in places like Brazil, Venezuela, Peru, Panama. And there's a path that they go up until they get to Mexico oftentimes, and then they cross into the United States, or some just stay in those countries that are named, if they are not able to make that path to make it into the United States. So because of these recent changes, the hopes of many of our people have been risen to think that if they made it into the country, they would either be counted as one of those with TPS, and they would be, their stay would be allowed, or they just would not be turned back. But when you talk about the question of why, there is such an influx of Africans from Haiti in the United States, you have to talk about the questions of US colonialism in Haiti. and the presence of the United States in Haiti, where we know that the United States is there to keep our people in oppression, to install neocolonial presidents and neocolonial, government leaders that do not work in the interests of our people, but instead just continue to steal our wealth and resources, and also keep our people tied to the colonial enslavers, which is the United States themselves. And so when you have people leaving countries such as Haiti or other parts of the world to come to places like the United States, France, and Canada, we are going to the same places that are constantly raping our people of our wealth and resources. And that action is actually us chasing our own resources, whether the people who are making that move are actively conscious of that at that moment, or if they think that the United States is the so-called land of promises or the so-called land of the free. When it comes to the Haiti and USA relationship in particular, Secretary General Luezi actually just spoke a lot to this, but I will say this anyway. We know that the United States has been involved in an over 200-year process of punishing our people in Haiti for the courageous revolution that we won in November of 1803, and that, as he says, the date that we celebrate is January 1st, 1804, where between 1791 and 1803, for 13 years straight, the Africans there were united in extremely organized resistance, organized struggle, relentless struggle, and just efforts to make a revolution, which would actually become the first workers' revolution in the world, the first revolution won by enslaved people against colonial slavery. And it was this revolution that almost single-handedly crushed the colonialist capitalist system, which has gained all of its wealth and everything that it benefits off of the backs of our people. And so this is the same system that Africans in Haiti almost crushed by ourselves by defeating the British, the Spanish, and finally the French, which at the time that the army fought against the French army was the most powerful army on earth. And they teach that Napoleon, colonial education teaches that he has never been defeated, but that is a lie. He was defeated by African people and African people from Haiti. So since then, Haiti has been made to pay for standing up to the colonial enslavers and standing up for the freedom of African people around the world. As S.G. Luezi said, that Haiti has been made to pay France reparations. And, the United States, France, all of the white imperialist countries band together to make Haiti pay for that revolution. Haiti had to pay over $90 billion if you had to in gold, if you had to convert it in today's gold's prices. You also have the United States that came into Haiti from 1915 and occupied Haiti. And at the point that it was leaving, left with every single ounce of gold that was in the Haitian treasury and brought it to New York City. And again, this is the question of why, of African people or Haitians chasing our own resources when we do end up in these countries, because the wealth that is in those countries come directly from us. And this is the relationship that we have to these kind of countries. It's a parasitic relationship, and it's a relationship that enriches them and impoverishes us. So when you see this taking place, Haiti has been made unlivable. A lot of people deem it as unlivable, and that is as a result of colonialism, and of course through neocolonialism, which neocolonialism, as we say in the African People's Socialist Party, and you also read this a lot in the Br.A.very newspaper, is when the colonizer takes a force or forces from the colonized people that they are oppressing and use them to deepen their oppression. It's what Barack Obama was in the United States. When you talk about Barack Obama coming from the Black community and he was a neo-colonial leader. And so they make, these countries unlivable. And this is what causes this, this amount of people having to leave a country. It's not because they're just so desperate to come to the United States or any place like that. When it comes to Africans from Haiti in particular, in the United States is always engaged in a campaign against the people of Haiti. In the 1980s, when the HIV/AIDS crisis first came about, Haitians was named as one of the 4 H's that was to be blamed for the existence of HIV/AIDS, which was homosexuals, Haitians, heroin addicts, and hemophiliacs. And so, this, and I'm saying this because when you see the treatment at the border, this is not something that came out of nowhere. This is indeed an attack against not only African people, but also it's a very much anti-Haitian act. The United States was also engaged in the destruction of our economy, from the rice tariff that was implemented by Bill Clinton, where the Haitian farmers had to be turned away from producing and selling our own rice to import rice from the United States, which was turned out to be not only a poison for our people, but of course a poison for our own economy, because our agriculture, that's one of the aspects of our agriculture that has been stifled. And the United States government continues to humiliate people from Haiti as a message to ourselves and to Black people around the world that you will forever pay for waging this revolution that, as Julie and myself spoke about earlier. On the question of immigration and deportation, something that was very popular in the mid-90s was the wet feet, dry feet policy, and the difference in how that was implemented when you had migrants coming in from Cuba versus from Haiti. And the migrants coming in from Cuba were specifically those who had betrayed the revolutionary forces of Cuba, those who were united with white nationalism and the United States, and just counterinsurgent forces, where if they made it to the United States, if they were found around shore, then they would be turned back. But that was the wet feet. But if they made it if they were found in the waters, they would be turned back. That's wet feet. But if they made it to shore, then they would be able to stay in the country. That's dry feet. And so the thing about that was, especially growing up in Miami, sometimes they didn't even have to come by boat. They could come into the country any other ways illegally, make it quickly somewhere like by water, and then appear on shore to make it seem like that's the method that they took to come in. And either way, they would be allowed into the country. Whereas, African people from Haiti, doesn't matter how we came, you would be turned back. So, this is, again, an ongoing contradiction between the United States and Haiti. But the reality is that the United States actually has no right to talk about, or legitimacy to talk about, the question of immigration and who is legal or illegal in any country, and especially not in this country, because the United States itself, is a country that was created by stealing someone else's land. You just impose yourself onto someone else's land. So there's no legitimacy to white people, ever saying who's an immigrant and who can stay and who can be sent back, and for whatever reason, because they would have to be the first to go. Just like the United States went into Haiti in 1492 when Christopher Columbus landed. He landed in Ayiti, in northern Haiti, in fact. And by him being there, brought in so many diseases, and of course the rape, the murder, but also just their actual diseases, killed off just about everybody. There's none of the indigenous Taino people that were on the island that are still present today. So, as the African People's Socialist Party, We condemn the actions of the United States. We also condemn the actions of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's administration. And we say that the United States should be getting out of Haiti because it's the United States that has been crossing Haiti. We raise up the people of Haiti. We raise up the African Revolution of Haiti. We raise up Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who was the fearless leader of that revolution, who introduced the slogan, Coupe tête boule caille, which is Creole for cut heads, burn houses. He was a non-compromising, non-surrendering kind of leader who understood that in order for African people to be free, we had to be completely removed from colonialism and completely removed from the colonizer. Jean-Jacques Dessalines also understood the oneness of the African nation, because after the revolution, he made a call to Black people around the world and said, if you made it to Haiti, you would be free. So, Ayiti, he was setting up Ayiti, if you wanted to say the land of the free, that would be Ayiti under Jean-Jacques Dessalines' leadership. So we believe that the US must be condemned for their actions against our people, and that the Biden administration must be condemned for their action against African people from Haiti. Those of us in the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, we are African internationalists. We believe that all Black people are a part of a single nation, and that is the African nation. We believe that all African people must unite for revolution, because that's the only solution for our problems faced, whether it is in the United States, in Haiti, in the Caribbean, in the continent, in Europe. And so, this is a call I know one will be made later, but to African people who have been sympathizing with the people from Haiti over the past few weeks after seeing these photos and videos, the call to you is to join the African People's Socialist Party, because this is all of our problems. It's not just our problems there in Haiti. Africans in Haiti must join the African People's Socialist Party too, because all of our problems are each other's problems as the African nation. We also believe that all African people are owed reparations for the centuries of genocide, rape, murder, and theft of our resources that was used to enrich the European nation, and that is still taking place, that enriches the United States, Canada, France, and all of these other countries that we run to. So in the spirit of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, we want to cut all ties with the colonizer. We say, coupe tête, boule caille, victory to the people of Haiti, long live the Haitian Revolution, vive Haiti, Uhuru.
Uhuru, Comrade Elikya, coupe tête, boule caille.